Hello, good people of YouTube. Mountbatten here, and today we are talking about one of the most gimmicky ships that has ever gimmicked in the game, which is the Tier VIII Premium French battleship, the Champagne. Now, the Champagne is an interesting little ship for a couple of reasons. One being she's only been out for sale in the game twice. Once in, I believe, June or July of 2020. She was removed from sale after her initial release, and then for 1 week in October of 2020. And since then, she hasn't shown back up. However, there are some indicators that she might be about to be pushed back out for sale again. One being that, if you've paid attention to the most recent dev blog, she has received quite a large buff, an 8,000 HP increase to her total HP pool, which is pretty nice for this ship for a couple of reasons. We'll get into that here in a moment. So the gist of the Champagne, if you're wondering, this isn't a real still historical ship. I think the closest thing you could say to this thing existing in real life was the plans for what was the Gascon in game. The French were planning on, well, it was a variation of the Richelieu class. They were going to take one of the turrets, put it in the back, make like a mega Graf Spee type of abomination, and this is that, but with 16-inch guns, which was one of the design schemes for the, well, again, what is the Gascon, but again, was never laid down or built in any way, shape, or form in real life. So yes, she is a paper ship with not much historical basis to go off of, really. And she is essentially what many would consider to be a mini Slava. They have the same type of gameplay, they have many of the same gimmicks, and they are both affected by absolutely crippling levels of specialization in this game. They're both very good at one thing: long range sniping. That's it. That's all the ship is good for. She cannot do anything else well. She can do other things, just not very well. This ship is not high up there on my personal list of favorite premium ships. There are some players that swear up and down by this ship, and those are players that typically like sniping. If you do like sniping, this is a ship that you will like. But players that don't like sitting in the back of the match all day long probably won't enjoy this ship too much. And we'll talk about why here in a moment. Let's run through her stats real quick so we know what we're talking about. Here's my commander build again. That's just the build that I'm running on the ship and the gameplay in the background, and the stats that I'll be reading off with these modules and commander skills applied. Alright, so out the gate, her armor. Her armor is terrible. Absolutely abysmal. She has a 25mm bow. She has a 25mm stern. She does have a 32mm torpedo bulge on her side, but her citadel armor is, well, her broadside armor is only 240mm on the main belt, and then her citadel, once you get through that, which isn't hard to do, is 30mm in the middle, 40mm on the midsections, and then 50mm in the edge. So the ship is ridiculously squishy. She's coated in 25 and 32mm of armor, which for a tier 8 ship means that, of course, anything with decent HE at this tier is going to be absolutely feasting on you. Now, granted, you don't really get into range of mini and HE spammer in the Gascon, but you do certainly get into range of other tier 8, 9, and 10 battleships, especially with how matchmaking is nowadays. And with a 25mm bow and stern, and being coated in 32 and only 240mm of citadel protection, and then if you throw the 32 of the torpedo bulges on top of that, so 272 millimeters of citadel protection, you're not having a good day. It's very easy for any battleship with a decent gun caliber to just absolutely rip HP off of you. And you only have 52,000 hit points of HP, which is incredibly low for a tier 8 battleship to have, especially a tier 8 battleship with this levels of armor. Normally, if a battleship does have incredibly poor armor, they do at least get decent HP for their tier, or slightly less. But again, there are cases nowadays with like the Schlieffen, where she does get significantly less HP and armor. But here it's just, God, it's so terrible. You cannot get close to any battleship in this ship, especially when you're at Tier 8 and above. You get melted so fast. And then if you do get into the range of an HE spammer, again, you get melted incredibly fast in this thing. This is a battleship that cannot battleship. Now, granted, she has some other characteristics that help her stay out of that range of, well, not stay out of the range, but stay out of the gun sights of other battleships. But we'll get to that here in a second. Like I said, with hit points, 52,600, that's what she has currently. That is being buffed to 60,000, which is a welcome change. 28% torpedo damage reduction. Now, her guns, this is what the Champagne gives up all of her armor and ability to be a battleship for. These 6 406mm guns. These guns reload in 28.6 seconds base. They have a 24-second 180 time, maximum dispersion of 240 meters at 25 kilometers, and she does have 2.0 Sigma. Her HE does a maximum damage of 6,100, and a 49% chance of causing a fire on the target, with 68mm of HE pin, and they come out the tubes at 850 meters a second. Her AP does a maximum damage of 12,100, and those come out the tubes at 850 meters a second as well. And she is, again, very much like Slava with her dispersion at longer ranges. She has a better dispersion ellipse, so the shells are more accurate at longer range. And with shells that travel at 820 meters a second, at 16 inches, you have quite the punching power here. She actually has some of the best 16-inch AP in the game. Again, something that you have to trade your ability to be a battleship off for. So if anything shows you broadside, you're going to absolutely strip at least 10-15k off of them, even if you don't citadel them, even if you maybe just tag their bow, or tag their stern, or tag their upper armor. As long as you get a decent amount of the shells to connect, which isn't really a hard thing to do in most cases, you'll be easily doing that. And when they do connect and they do bite, you'll be doing 24, 28k to broadside battleships that aren't paying attention when you can bite on their citadel with just a few shells connecting. If you get really lucky and get more than 2 or 3 shells to connect, you'll be just deleting battleships' HP bars with one salvo. That does rely on ships not paying attention and them selling broadside to you. Of course, with more punishable citadels like the North Carolina Citadel, they don't even have to be selling completely broadside to you to do this. And especially with the inclusion of new battle cruisers in the game, like the British battle cruisers and the German battle cruisers, you don't really have to be worried about them selling broadside to you. You can overmatch them with your gun. So that is something that has changed in favor of the Champagne here, the introduction of all these battle cruisers. So the guns are very nice. However, they can be infuriating at times. It's not quite like Slava, where every salvo is pretty much perfect. And a lot of the the Champagne footage you've probably seen of her, just fist of degalling the enemy ships is probably from when Deadeye was a thing in game. When we got that 10% boost to the dispersion of the shells when the ship was undetected, which Gascon was fantastic at doing back in the day. But nowadays, all you have is the Aiming Systems Mod 1 to roll out that dispersion, and so it's not as good as it used to be when she was first released. So you get those situations where you miss 2 or 3 shells a lot more, which is infuriating because you only have 6 guns, and it is a 26-second reload, and granted, the way that this ship does take damage with Adrenaline Rush, you'll get that reload down pretty fast, but 6 guns is... it's not the best setup to have if you don't have overly large guns for your tiers. So like the Shikishima, the Incomprehensible, the Georgia, all those ships have very large guns for their tier. Georgia, 18 inches. Incomprehensible has 20 inches. And then Shikishima has 20 inches as well. Gascon has 16 inches, which... yes, they are 16-inch shells that punch a lot harder than 16-inch shells, but they don't have the same overmatching capabilities that those other ships do have that are also, in the Shikishima's case, a good sniper, the Georgia's case, a good sniper, if you build for it. And granted, the Incomprehensible is just dumb, but you guys get what I'm saying. 16-inch shells means that ships can still angle into you and you wind up bouncing them. But again, with the pins that these shells do have, you will be biting them for a bit, biting them at angles that you normally wouldn't with other 16-inch shells. But again, you're still only throwing 6 shells at them in that situation, doing maybe 3 or 4K. Granted, with the HE, with a 49% chance of causing a fire, you can also burn them down too. So the guns are a double-edged sword. If you like sniping and you're good at aiming at longer ranges, you can make them work. But with the way that games go nowadays, we'll talk more about that here in a moment. A defense 59, it's terrible. Maneuverability 35.7 knots with the speed flag. You do get an engine boost here to get you going quite a bit faster. 850 meter turning circle radius. And rudder shift time 15.5 seconds. Concealment, maximum concealment range, well, minimum concealment range of 12.9 kilometers with the commander skill and the module. Consumables, you get engine boost, which gives you an 8% boost to your max speed for 180 seconds. It reloads 114 seconds. You get your choice of fighter or spotter, which you should be using the spotter. You get 4 heals with Battleship Superintendent. That gives you a 315 HP back per second. Is active for 30.8 seconds, reloads in 76 seconds. Get damage con active for 16.5 seconds and reloads in 76 seconds. So, the Champagne. In today's World of Warships, she is pretty well suited for the meta, but there's still cases that the ship's really frustrating for me, at least. One, I'm not the best sniper ever. I haven't spent a tremendous amount of time trying to land shots from 23 kilometers away, which this ship does have a very nice main battery gun range of 25 kilometers, which is very nice in today's World of Warships. Then you add the spotter on top of that, and you're out to 30 kilometers with shells that are quite fast and can get there fairly easily. So it's not hard to snipe in this ship. I wouldn't say it's super easy either if you're not someone, again, like me, that isn't really a sniper. But if you enjoy that type of gameplay, you like sniping in battleships, you probably would like this ship quite a lot. But you still run into those situations where you're missing 2 or 3 shells every salvo because it's still a Tier 8 battleship. It doesn't have amazing dispersion. And then you get into the situations like the match you're watching now, or should have watched, where you wind up having to do battleship things because the team needs you to do it. You have to push some battleships. You have to deal with battleships that get within like 15 kilometers of you, and you just get melted because of the armor. And then now that you're that close, you don't get the gimmick with the dispersion. So now your shells aren't incredibly accurate like they are at longer range, and you're putting, instead of 1 or 2 shells in the water, you're putting 3 or 4 shells in the water, and maybe only landing 1 or 2 or 3 shells, which is infuriating. And plus, too, with how much energy these shells are carrying, being 16-inch shells traveling at 800 plus meters a second, when it comes time to deal with cruisers, you're overpinning a lot of them, unless they're super cruisers or heavy cruisers that are giving you the right angle to where your shells can bite. So that's also frustrating as well. The amount of damage you do in game depends upon how long are the enemy battleships alive for, how long are they spotted for, and are you on the right side of the map to be able to shoot at them. With the arcs on these guns as well, there's a lot of cases where you can't arc your shells over islands like you can in other battleships. I'm not saying they need to be absolute catapults like the American battleships, but they are incredibly flat shooting, which again is great for those 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23 kilometer shots when there's nothing but open ocean between you and the enemy battleship and they're being spotted and they're showing you broadside. Great for punishing that. But when you're in a map that's got islands and, you're popping in and out of island cover, you don't want to be hanging so far back that you can't do anything later on in the match. You're kind of keeping, at medium range away from the islands. And now you're in a situation where the island's in between you and your target, and you can't arc the shells over the islands. So now you're just kind of sitting there waiting to sail beyond this island, which, granted, with the speed boost, isn't going to take forever to do. But it's just one of the frustrating things that happens with this ship. But yes, if you, again, have enemy battleships showing you broadside from long range, you got a clear shot, this ship will wreck them. Absolutely will. And at close range too, when the odds roll in your favor, yes, this ship will wreck face at close range too when the shells connect and they don't overpin because you're so close. If they do wind up adding the ship back into the game, would I recommend you guys pick it up? I mean, if you're a collector, you're probably already, waiting for the ship to come back. If you like sniping, like if you just absolutely adore battleship sniping, yes. But if you're more like me, like playing at mid and close range, this is not the ship for you. You're going to get melted. You're going to get toasted. You're not going to be able to get anything done. And another thing to consider too is that this ship still does need time to rack up damage, of course. And with the way that matches go nowadays, quite often matches are over by like the 10-minute mark. And in this ship, sure, again, it's not hard to get a good shot in here and there where you can get, 20 or 30k a salvo, but every salvo isn't like that. It's not the Slava. The Slava can do that because it's stupid, but this isn't that good. It's still a tier 8. You still only have 6 guns. And RNG's still going to flick a shell or two away from the target at longer range. So, yes, it's good at sniping, but it can be incredibly frustrating at times too. So that's my 2 cents on the Champagne. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. If you love sniping, it's a ship you're going to like. If you're a more aggressive type of battleship player, it's not a ship you're probably going to like. Again, I don't know 100% for sure if they're going to add this ship back in with the recent buffs coming to it, but they might. And it's still available in standing containers and such as well. So if you're wondering about that, that's what the ship is if you do wind up picking it up in some way, shape, or form. So if you guys enjoyed today's video, do make sure to drop a like, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel. We're on our way to 40,000 subscribers, and I cannot thank you guys enough for that. I will be live streaming right here on Twitch and YouTube tonight around 5 p.m. U.S. Central Time, so make sure you guys come out for that. Again, hope you guys have a wonderful Friday, have a wonderful weekend. Hope to catch you guys in the next one.